Okay, here's a Maul handle that cracked. This is the second time this has happened. If you can see, the grain goes from one side to the other. This is a manufactured handle, not the original one, and it reminds me how much I enjoyed and how long handles last when I basically cut down a small tree or took a branch where the center of the branch was the center of the handle, and the grain ran straight and I would trim it down. But since this is just cracked, I'm going to try gluing it back together again. I think it's been several years, so okay, the glue has been applied. Now to clamp it in place. Should be a challenge. I like to use various types of clamps, including hose clamps, and try to use a bunch of them to try to make sure that I have even pressure holding down the wood to get it back together. Here's one hose clamp. I have this fully clamped now. One hose clamp, two hose clamp, three hose clamps, 1, 2, 3 C-clamps. You can see how the glue is being squeezed out of the wood. What I want is maximum distribution, basically having the glue pressed into places primarily on the interior that I can't see or reach. And so the only way to do that is to apply pressure to squeeze it back together. The challenge of putting a clamp on a somewhat rounded object is sometimes they don't hold too well. And after I get the glue on, I'll smooth it off, and it acts somewhat as a sealer, but it also makes it so that afterwards I don't have this burr of glue sticking off the side of the handle that then I have to scrape off or be irritated by. I'll probably leave this a day, probably more. It's in the basement where it's somewhat warm, so it should dry out pretty quickly, but it's winter time, so I really don't need it. So let it dry well and then try it out.